Hello.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good. How are you?
Uh, I'm not doing fantastic
Yeah,
just cause
sorry about that,
literally
man.
constant like since like 8 a.m. But
Yeah, that's the
other than
worst.
that, not doing too bad. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm all right, just chilling.
Nice. Okay, cool. So maybe you could give a quick intro for the stream, just like how long you've been playing, your tag and stuff like that.
Sure. My tag is Tucker. I've been playing since 2017. I started as a Yoshi player and switched to Falco about a year and a half into playing. Um, yeah.
Okay, yeah, cool. Yeah, that was a good intro. All right, so what are we going over on the lesson today?
Lately I feel like I've hit a wall
Mm-hmm.
where Uh, it just feels like my C game and my A game are way too. Um, my C game just sucks a lot.
Okay.
I feel like when I play, it feels kind of mysterious, like whether or not I'm playing well on a given day.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like I can't really pinpoint things that I need to work on. Uh,
Okay. Hello?
I also don't feel like I'm very confident in my VOD analysis skills
And your what
in
skills?
general. VOD analysis skills.
Okay.
I just I don't like watching myself play bad.
I feel
And I
that.
also
No, I
don't
hate watching my
yeah.
own VODs.
But I also don't feel like I know how to watch my own VODs productively. Usually it just kind of demotivates me, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. But yeah, like you're just like, wow, like I'm bad. You're not like you don't know like what to look at.
Yeah. Because when I'm
Okay.
playing bad, it mostly feels like I'm just not making decisions. I'm not being intentional, and I don't know where to start with fixing that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, is the Discord stream working?
Yes, I can yeah, I can see it.
Okay. So, all right, sick. So let's go into this. Which Falco are you?
I am Green Falco.
Okay. So would you say this is like a time you played pretty well, or
Uh, Not really. I think I'm playing okay. Not
mm-hmm.
the worst or the best.
Okay, I like the combo, general stuff about the combos so far. Okay, that's good. Okay. Hmm. Do you have any non-Falco Ditto VODs?
Yeah, I have a few.
Okay.
Um, you want me to send you one now?
Yeah, it might be more useful. A lot of times in the Falco Ditto, so much of it is based on like what you think about like your information you've gathered on the other Falco, you know? Like there's not really like a super
It,
correct way to play the matchup. It's mostly just like mix ups. So I really like the reverse shine stuff, like the cross up shine you're doing on the platform. I think those are pretty good. There hasn't been anything super jarring so far.
okay, okay. So I'll send you this Slippy file. It's me versus Reeve on unranked.
Okay. Actually, I kind of want to watch this one again first. I think there's a few things I saw that were an issue. Because there's definitely like reasons why you lost this game. I'm trying to figure out exactly why. And I saw a couple things, and I want to see if those things are also here in the earlier parts of the match. Okay, so that's how you die there. Let's see how you lose your second stock. Okay, yeah, that was a really good wave dash out of shield. Okay. So far, a lot of these things you're kind of just getting like tapped by like a lot of random stuff, and there's a few situations where it looks like you're not, like you're thinking more about how to get in on your opponent than how to like protect yourself, and I think that can sometimes be an issue. But I don't have like enough examples yet to really give you something super concrete.
Right.
Yeah, so some lessons are really easy where like the person just shows up and I'm like, oh, you're not comboing or something like that. And then sometimes they're a little bit harder. Yeah. And so like to see like exactly what the issue is. So like I can understand why you have trouble analyzing your VODs. Because you're not doing anything like egregiously wrong and yet you're just kind of like losing.
Yeah. Right. It's so, especially frustrating.
Yeah, go
go
for
ahead.
It. No, go for it.
I was just gonna say it's especially frustrating with Falco Dittos because it feels like I just get reversaled like easily, and it's like I don't really understand how I lost this interaction.
Okay,
you know, like
yeah.
I'll try to like shine grab and get like spot dodge shined and a combo to death, and it's like, well.
Okay, so here's an example of kind of what I'm talking about. Is you're like, you start this forward smash like right here, where you're like, so you're like you're good at looking for these situations that I've noticed so far, where you're good at seeing high return potential to situations where you're saying like, okay, look, if he comes down to ledge right here, this will just directly kill him, and that's nice. But then like there also needs to be this awareness of like, what can my opponent do to me if this is wrong? And so there's a bunch of times in this so far where this has come up. This is probably like the most egregious one, where you're like, okay, if this works, it's great. And it's like, oh, and if it doesn't, I just get reversaled and potentially die. So now you're just kind of getting comboed out of this, and you make it back to ledge, and you just sort of go for like, just like a random, laser when he's like really close to the edge. So it's like, this is just like another way of like, it's like, well, you can't analyze how you lost the situation in like an interesting way if you lost it in a boring way where you just let him hit you, So like, if you can get rid of the ways where like you're like, oh, I forward smashed and then he just hit me, then if that never happens, then he must have hit you for like a more interesting reason than you just kind of like letting him reversal you. And so in some situations, and I've noticed in this match in a few spots that like, sorry, that there's spots where like there's not a lot to actually take from the VOD, because of that sort of phenomenon where, like, you know, if somebody does a bad double laser from edge and then they get hit for it, the only thing you can really say is like, hey, you shouldn't have done that, you know? And like, so that creates like very like shallow analysis potential in a lot of situations. So like, yeah, like right here, this will happen sometimes. Like, I think you just shoot the laser, you trade, he jumps over your laser. He gets the high laser to catch your jump, so it's like he got like 2 correct lasers there, and then he nares in and you do something besides shielding. So like, that's just like a loss. Like, that will happen. And there's not even a lot to analyze there outside of the fact that he got like 3 perfect laser situations in a row. Or they did. There was a spot, I feel like it already happened. Where was it? Yeah, this one. This is another one of those situations where you're thinking about the payoff and you're not really considering the risk. So you get this ledge dash and he's up here and you do this up tilt, which is totally fine. And then he's coming down, and so like, he could come down through the platform and try to hit you. He could land on the platform. He can fall through over here. There's a lot of options that he does, but he does this down air, and for whatever reason, you're like, after this down air, he's definitely about to just down air again. And maybe you play somebody a lot who does that or something like that, and it's like, it's okay to like suspect it and be like, okay, people down air here a lot, so I'm gonna move out of the way. Like, that is totally like an acceptable decision to make. But then trying to punish that option without confirming it is really bad. So like, you didn't confirm this at all. You were just like, if he does this, I'm definitely gonna hit him for it. But then by doing that, you lose control of the situation. Like, you, by committing to this down air here, anything he does after you've started this down air, beside just letting you hit him with it, is something that you can't play around. Like, he now has control of the game because you've committed to that. And he goes for this down air here, and he gets you. But like, let's say he didn't go for this down air and he just like didn't commit to anything. So it's like right here, and then you do this, and it's like, what if he just did an empty hop? He would have been able to just react and down air this anyway, you know? And like, even if he did something dumb here, like he spot dodges on the platform twice, you won't be able to punish it at all, because you've already committed to this option based on like the potential reward of this option. So like, some advice that I would probably give you just off of this match so far is to consider your risk more than your reward, as sort of like a training concept, because like, you have shown basically in this video that you know how to like look for rewards and then hit the inputs when you get the reward. So that's good. But ultimately what you're looking for in this game, what everyone is looking for, is to win consistently. Winning doesn't really matter that much. Anybody can take a game here or there off of pretty much anyone. But what you want is, you want consistency, and the best players in this game are the players that don't lose to people below a certain level. You know, let's say Zane is playing somebody in bracket. Let's just pick somebody kind of mid high level, like you have like Meds or something. You know, like Zane is playing Meds in bracket. Are you like worried that Zane will potentially lose to Meds? Like, the chance of it happening is very, very low. And that's because he understands how to like limit his risk really effectively, because that's how you beat people that you're better than. So I would say that like, something you could do would be try, when you're playing players worse than you, like on unranked or whatever, do your best to try to like JV5 them or 4-stock every game. And against somebody who's like around your skill level, like this guy, you're not going to be able to do that. You can try, and I think it's worth it to try. But you can try playing that way, and you're probably not going to 4-stock him, but you might still win. It doesn't really matter. But I just want you to practice like that feeling of like, I am going to try to never get hit ever. And I think by like practicing that, then when the high value situation presents itself, you can hit that, rather than sort of being like, man, if I don't find a high value situation really soon, I'm going to lose this game because I can't protect myself, you know? So like, not being able to defend oneself kind of lends itself to this sort of like impatience. Because when people can't defend themselves, they're like, well, I gotta make something happen right away and sort of like resolve the neutral situation so that I don't lose this long drawn out neutral, because eventually he'll just hit me. Then that creates, you know, the impatience that makes it so you start making these decisions, which is like it basically completely invalidates like if I do this, or let's say Mango does this down air, he has exactly as like little control over the match as you do when you do it, you know? So your ability to outplay your opponent goes down drastically when you've already committed to an option without like confirming. Does that make sense? Do you have any thoughts so far?
Yeah, that does make sense. I feel like there are times when I've tried to play like minimize risk basically, and it feels like what ends up happening is I go from being too decisive, too impatient, to being like not decisive enough, and I don't capitalize properly.
Well,
And that's more frustrating, honestly, than like committing too hard and getting reversaled than just never actually, getting my hits.
right. And I have some other students who have that problem where they refuse to ever. They're just like, I'm gonna dash away laser because that's safe, and then they never actually like find the situation, you know. And so
Right.
the way I always talk about it is you always want to protect yourself, but you don't want to be passive. So if you've ever watched, any sort of fighting, a boxing match, anything like that, UFC stuff, you'll notice that like a lot of the time they're not actually hitting each other. They're just kind of moving around and kind of being like, "Oh, am I gonna swing? Am I gonna swing?" You know? Do you know what I'm talking about in that regard?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. So in that respect, it's like if somebody, like let's say one of the guys just pops out, and he just runs at the other guy and starts swinging his arms. He's giving up control of the situation. He's giving up his ability to react to things because he's committing and throwing his weight into these punches. And so you're basically like, well, if I don't run at the guy flailing my arms, then I become too passive. And it's like the idea is not I'm going to sit here and wait all the like forever. Ideally, like eventually, you're not going to just sit here and wait forever for your opponent to give you openings. What you're trying to do is you're trying to actively pressure your opponent and like try to make openings with your movement. You'll see them kind of like their footwork, in fighting. They move forward, they move back. They're trying to like get themselves into an ideal position to either defend against the other guy's attack or to hit the other guy. And so the idea is like those, if you look at those situations where they're kind of dancing around each other, those are very defensive situations. They're both defending, but it's not a passive defense. It's like a very active defense where they're like, I am looking out for your openings all the time, but you can't hit me. And so that is the eventual goal that you want. And so, but a lot of times at top level, what happens is you will not be consciously, so like when two top players play each other, they're not consciously going to be defending themselves. What they've done is they've practiced defending themselves, moving around on the platforms, rolling out of shield pressure, shining out of shield, wave dashing back. They know when to move in and move back so that they're not too passive. And you learn this style of like, so like you're saying like when I play defensive, I can't find ways to hit my opponent, right? And it's like, if you play defensive and your opponent can never hit you, the game could end in just a stalemate. Like you could just time out, And it's like, so I would rather you be able to do that and just not let your opponent open you up no matter how hard they try, and then not get any openings on them, than sort of like not be able to do that. So it's like your goal is to get this into your autopilot that like my opponent will not hit me ever. And I know, and my hands know which buttons to do so to defend myself, and then with your active mind, you're like when I'm playing a top player in a match, it feels like I'm always approaching them. It feels like I'm always trying to find a way in. I'm always looking for an angle, and they're doing the same thing. And then when you actually look at it, both players are just dash dancing and jumping around on the platforms, and no one's hitting each other. But we're both trying our hardest to hit the other player. It's just that like because we have our autopilot defense, we're able to avoid getting hit while we're looking for these situations. So it's not like the correct way to play this game is to just be safe and just think about safety all the time, but it's a skill you need to master so that like, you know, let's say going back to the fighter analogy, let's say this guy has like really good footwork and he's dancing around, he's like looking at his opponent and all this stuff, but like those movements aren't actually defending him, and he's just sort of moving around, pretend like, you know, people use dash dance to be like, I'm gonna come in, and it's like, well, that's good, but if you're threatening coming in and then I just try to hit you and you get hit, it's not gonna work. So if some guy looks good, but then you just swing at him and you hit him, none of that stuff that he was working on is helping him at all, you know, because he's not actually safe from what you're trying to throw at him.
Okay.
Alright, so let's watch this and see what we can get out of this Marth match. So I don't necessarily love this up tilt, but it's not too bad. I still am not a huge fan of it necessarily, because you're not really going to get like a huge payoff for it. You just see Marth on the platform, and you're like, yo, maybe I can take advantage of Marth on the platform. And you up tilt, and you're like, oh, he outspaced me, so I just lose. You know? Like,
yeah.
There's nothing you really could have done better here. He just... Wait, oh, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, I've watched, like, a lot of Drugged Fox's lessons with Falco players, and I remember him mentioning this concept, like, melee players think, like, a couple seconds is like an eternity. Like, this game starts and I see the Marth on side platform, and like at first like I laser a couple times, I think, but then like he stays there and I'm like, okay, I have to go over there and like make something happen right now. And like looking at this, like that up tilt, like that would basically get me nothing, even if it did hit, you know.
Yeah,
it's just not
exactly. And it's like there's no reason to give the Marth this situation in neutral, where you're like, I'm turning around, I'm gonna up tilt. If you space around it, you win neutral. Good job. If you don't space around it, I up tilt you and then maybe get a follow-up, you know? So it's like, even if you were going for like a high value option here, like you did a down air here or something, it's not a guaranteed win. So this is sort of what I was talking about before, but I've gone into this in some previous lessons too, which is that so there are layers to what you want to get out of the game. So what is an ideal game of Melee from your perspective? The ideal game of Melee is that your opponent looks you in the face and then air dodges off stage 4 times. You didn't have to do anything. You JV5'd your opponent. That's optimal, right? But the better and honestly, if you play some sort of casual players, this happens quite a bit. Like, if you play somebody who's not like a competitive Melee player in this game, you just sort of hit them with like a move, and then maybe they double jump backwards off stage, and then they side B instead of up B, and they just die. And it's like, oh, like that's nice, like that's good. If I could get Mango to suicide 4 times against me, you know, that'd be fantastic. And so it's like, that is the ideal way to play the game. 0 effort, your opponent just dies. So one layer past that, it's like you're playing this guy who's just, he doesn't understand the game, he doesn't understand anything. All he understands is when he forward smashes with Marth, sometimes he hits people, and he likes that. So he's going to sit there and he's going to forward smash with Marth over and over. Is the correct way to play against this guy to try to do like tricky laser mix-ups, you know, and like kind of space around the forward smash, get some damage here or there, you know, try to look for the perfect opening. It's like, no, you're not trying to do these crazy mix-ups here. You're not like, oh, I'll do a late down air this time, you know, because you're gonna laser late down air and he's just gonna forward smash you, you know, as you're jumping up. And so it's like there's no reason to go into these extra layers when your opponent is just going to give you something for free. And so that is the next step, is whiff punishing, is, hey, if I'm just going to move around for a second and then my opponent swings and then I can hit them for it, I would like that to happen as many times as humanly possible in a game. And if you watch somebody like Zane is really good at switching in and out of this, where like if his opponent will give him a free kill off of like a dash dance grab, he'll take it. He's looking for that. At all times, he's like, please, just nair in so I get my free dash dance grab and I don't have to outplay you to win the game. Because that is like significantly better, because there's no risk to you. You're in a safe position, your opponent throws out a bad option, and you kill them for it. And so you need to be really good at that aspect of the game, because even at top level, it happens all the time, and it's like this risk-free, like, aha, I just whiff punish for free. And like, okay, so then the level after that is the mix-ups, where like, oh, maybe Marth will drop into this and get up tilted, you know, but you don't have to do this yet, because you're not forced to. There's nothing that's forcing you to act like this. It's not like you played safe against Marth for 2 minutes and he perfectly defends himself against everything, and you go, okay, I think after 2 minutes of Marth perfectly defending himself with, let's say, dash back, I am going to read his dash back and do a risky overshoot laser, and if he does the dash back that I expected, I'll hit him for it. So it's like, when you do a mix-up to hit someone, it should be like begrudgingly, like, oh, I have to play a mix-up? Like, why is this person not letting me just win for free, you know?
Right.
And that is like what you should always have in mind. Like, and I think this is the most obvious. And this happens to a lot of people. This is kind of just like a funny consequence of the game, is a lot of people don't really know all these concepts, but they just sort of experience it. And I went through the same thing when I was first starting too. And it's like learning the Falco matchup as like a noob, where you're like, man, lasers are really stupid. Like when you're like the first couple years of playing this game, lasers are the worst thing ever. And so you're like, dude, Falco is impossible. Then what you do is you realize that if you dash dance, the Falco will just jump at you and short hop down air across the stage, and you just dash dance grab it. And so everyone, when they're learning this game, goes through this phase where they learn to dash dance grab Falco approaching dare, and they think, aha, I'm good at the Falco matchup now. And then they play a better Falco, and that never happens, and then they lose, and it's very confusing. And so I just think that's like a good example of like, against worse players, you want to think mostly about these sort of like whiff punish type things. So like, look what this Marth has done so far. Watch from the perspective of this Marth. Tell me how many genius plays has this Marth executed? Okay, so he's safe. He's safe. He's safe. He's safe. He shield drops. You're in a range where you can't hit him, and he can swing, so he just swings, and he goes, oh, sick, grabs. Okay, he does his little combo. Okay, so he misses this fair, and you could have just hit him out of this if you were perfect, but it's not a big deal. And then he just goes, there's no way he's reading this jump. What he does is he just does this fair, and then he's like, you know what, I'm already here, I'm just gonna try to hit him again. So he just tries to hit you again, and you happen to jump into it. So this is a read on his part, so I guess it's like an outplay, but I know he wasn't reading the jump there. So regardless, so he gets this combo, he hits you, he misses this combo, so now he's here. And he sees you kind of like drifting here, so he's like, okay, I'm going to go here, try to hit this up air on Falco falling onto me. So he misses, you go past him, he's like, oh, sick, Falco fell past me, he just hits you. It's like, did he have to win a mix-up to hit you here? It's like, no, you just fell there, and we're like, well, you can hit me if you want, right here. He's just like, oh, alright, I hit him. Now you're in the corner, let's see what he does. Yeah, so then he just crouched and you jumped over it. He just reacted to that and hit you.
Yeah.
And he's like, nice. So he's a stock up and he's feeling pretty good. And he didn't. He just does it again. He just goes to the side plat and he's like, nice. Gonna sit here and shield, which is pretty safe, to be honest. But then he just drops fares. He's like, wow, okay, I just hit him, huh? Okay. So he just throws out a spacing there. It happens to hit. Let's see what else he's gonna do. Oh. He just went for the most obvious thing where he's like, okay, so look, I'm going to defend myself with this shield, and if Falco does the wrong down air, I just get a shield grab. So it's like, he hasn't had to, like, work to, like, make an opening yet. He hasn't had to be like, dude, I can't get in on this Falco. Like, that's what you want as against a Marth. You want him feeling like, dude, okay, let's check it out again. He's like, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep myself safe for a second. So he just puts himself here. He swings. He goes, uh-oh, I don't want him hitting me. I better get out of here. So he gets out of here. And then he's like watching you. And he sees you jump in. And he's like, you know what? I'm just going to move out of the way and see what he does. And he's like, oh, sick. He gets in there. Once again, he did not have to outplay you in any form. This guy hasn't had to like... He hasn't had to power shield a laser and do something crazy out of it. He hasn't had to like get in a scramble and somehow like crouch under stuff or like CC you or anything. He's just purely, he has waited, and then he hits you when you give him the opening. So far, that's pretty much all he's done. He just waits for you to give him an opening, and then he hits you. Okay? So you're kind of hitting him for a second. Okay. Pretty good combo. So, like, look at this. Has he even, like, come past center stage? Look at him. He's like, oh, there he does for 1 second. He gets hit because he doesn't. See, look here. This is a spot where look, he is like, he gets impatient, right? And he's like, you know what? I'm gonna hit him. All my moves have hit so far this game, and he just runs out here and he throws out this bad nair. And you come down, maybe not the best option to come down with. Maybe if you expect a dash back, I guess. But you come down with the laser. He whiffs this down tilt. And you just hit him. So this is like the first time in the game where he's the first person to throw something out, where he just goes for it, and he just gets hit for it. So it's like, in an ideal world where you hadn't let him hit you so far, and like once again, he's just like, goes for a move, it doesn't connect, and so you just kill him for it, you know? And it's like, you need to make it so that if he wants to hit you, if he wants to take stocks, he has to work for it. He has to approach you. He has to come up with something clever. You don't want to just throw out a move and then let him get you for free. So look, he's right here. He's like, I gotta hit him. I feel like hitting Falco. And you're like, nope, you're not gonna hit me. He throws out this up tilt, you could have hit him there. It's like he throws out this fair, you could have just hit him. And then, you know, he puts himself in a bad position and you start beating him up. And this was all just, and dude, look at here again. You like, there's no reason to go for this. Like, you have him in a good spot, but you're just like, I gotta get him. Like,
Yeah.
I had an advantage, I gotta get him. And so he's like, all right, I'm gonna throw up my safe zoning fair to protect myself. Gets a hit, let's go, up tilt. Oh, Secret Marth tech chase abilities. Oh, I've trained for so long. It's like, dude, it's like, he didn't actually have to do anything. Like, he hasn't had to work for a single opening. Every opening that you made him work for at all, you just won. And he hits it, and he's like, sick. Mama always said I was good at edgeguard and Falco, you know? it's like he doesn't, you're not making him do anything.
Yeah.
Oh, and then here we go. Here's a situation where you laser him, you kind of jump in, you shield pressure, you move away. He's like, oh, maybe my nair will hit. You go, nope, it's not going to hit. And he shields again, you get good pressure, and you kill him. So that was a situation where it's like, he couldn't just wait for you and get an opening. By waiting for you, he was passive, and you just pressured him, and you killed him. Oh, and then he just execution tests. And then he wins, and he's like, let's go, 2-stocked another Falco. You know, and it's like, so like, let's watch again from your perspective, because we saw from his perspective, basically, this whole game. And I don't want you to feel like I'm just, like, making fun of you or something. This is just how it is. This is just, like, when I watch my games, it's exactly like this. So, okay, from your perspective, you're just like, I gotta hit him, he gets you, does the combo. Let's see. You get out. You're like, I'm gonna fall on Marth. Not a good plan usually, and then he just gets you. Okay, you go for unsafe mix-up. So it's like, if you're going for this situation where he's in the corner, you get this empty hop, and you just do run up. So this entire sequence was like pre-thought out. Like right here, from this moment, you were like, I'm going to jump at him, I'm going to empty hop, and then I'm going to run double shine. That's just what happened. Like, there was no decision making in the middle of this. It was purely just like, here's Marth, here's me. It's like, he can shield grab, he can forward air, he can do all these things. And you're like, well, I don't really want to deal with all these things that he could do. So I'm just going to sort of pick an option and hope that it works. And it's like, you could have died in so many different ways here. He ended up getting you with this nair. But notice how, like, there's no... So what I always tell people is that, like, you want to be able to, like, write a paragraph in an ideal world, right? At least a sentence. But you want to be able to write a paragraph on why you won neutral. Of like, oh, I was here, right. I baited this, he tried to come in, I defended against it again, I felt like he was kind of getting over aggressive, so I threw out, I did like a little bait that maybe I was going to press out against his aggression, but I didn't do it. Then he swung, and I nared him out of the air and did my combo. And it's like, yay, like that's what you want. You want to be able to explain that. Okay, so like right here, you're like, okay, so he was in the corner, and you're like, okay, Marth was in the corner, and you're like, yeah. So then I empty hopped at him, and you're like, okay, empty hop at him, what did he do? Oh, nothing. Like, he was actionable. He's just waiting there for me. It's like, what I do? I ran in, I double shine. And so you notice the difference between those two explanations. Is there wasn't, oh, I got him in this clever bait, and then I just was able to hit him. It's like, he was in a position, and I thought, maybe if I do this tech skill, it'll hit him. And that level of like thinking of like in the game of he's in this position, maybe my move will hit him if I do this, is like, no matter how much you try to squeeze out of that mentality, no matter how like, you know, you like, oh, well, I play my practice partner all the time, so I know his habits, so I keep going for these reads or whatever. No matter how much you squeeze out of it, it'll never be as consistent as like actually outplaying and like not just going for these blind reads. You want to be going for situations where you can like extract a guaranteed win or like an extremely high percentage win. Like he's maybe in a really bad spot, he has no double jump, and then you're like, oh, okay, I'm gonna jump up and back air, and if I'm wrong and he counters or something, he's not gonna get anything out of it. If I'm right, he dies. So it's like, it's not like you need the guaranteed situation, but you want to be like putting yourself in these situations where you can, you know, talk about why you won the situation. And that's like very, very important, because otherwise... So just to go back for 1 second, I'm not going to harp on it too much longer. But like, let's say you're right here, and then you're trying to watch your own VOD, you know? And you're like, alright. And then you're like, oh man, I ran and double shined, and his nair just hit me out of it before I could double shine. And it's like, alright, what information can we glean from that, you know? There's not a lot of info that we can take from analyzing that situation. We can say, oh, you probably shouldn't have just risked it all and went for a crazy double shine in the corner there. You know, we can say that, but that's all we're going to get out of it. Whereas, like, you know, in the situation where you try to bait the guy, you're trying to defend yourself, you're looking for, like, a very correct position to beat him in, and then it doesn't work out, and you can say, oh, okay, so look, you defended yourself here, you baited this here, but, oh, look at this, your spacing was a little off on, let's say, dash dance down airing around, you know, his neutral air. Then you say, oh, okay, what I need to do is all of this other stuff was good, and all I need to do is learn to dash dance a little bit cleaner, and then I'll get the win. And that's, you know, you can take a lot more out of analyzing VODs like that than you can if you just sort of went for a random gamble.
Right.
So that's also a big thing, is like playing in such a way that VOD analysis can help you. because the way you're playing, it's like if I'm in this spot and I'm watching this and I'm like, okay, like I'm getting paid $50 an hour to tell him how to improve at the game, and I'm watching this VOD, and then you just nair in and you get grabbed. There's nothing I can actually tell you here except don't nair in. In like a case-by-case situation. I can give these abstracts to you, but in terms of like the exact analysis of like this precise match, there's no other info there. It's just like, man, probably don't want to nair for no reason.
Right. It makes a lot. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And I feel like on some level I kind of understand what you're talking about. I just don't. It just leaves my brain when I queue up on unranked, because there's plenty of instances where I'll match with somebody and this is good enough. Like what I'm doing right now beats tons of people, and it's because like Falco's a good character, and they're not, whatever. And so like I've built like bad habits like that.
Okay, so yeah, there's a couple things I can take from that or talk about from that. And okay, so first of all, it's never good enough. Like,
yeah.
It's like, did you JV5 this person and was every stock a 0 death? If that is true, it was good enough. Find a different person to play. if you like, basically if you take below 30 damage and you 4-stock them and each opening is a 0 death, then like, yeah, you're not gaining anything out of this, and it's probably going to make you worse. But against somebody who, it's good enough to win the match, that's not good enough, because you don't want to win matches. You want to win every match until the end of time and make the person quit the game and never come back. You want to be like, look, you will never touch me. You will never get a single opening on me. I am superior to you as a player in every conceivable way. Then it's good enough. Until then, winning a game is not good enough, because it's not good enough against better players, And that's why I tell people to look at unranked as training. Never look at unranked as a competition. Or even when ranked comes out, this is going to be an even bigger deal when ranked comes out, is everybody and their brother is going to be like, yo, I can't play ranked because I'm not playing great, And they're like, oh, like, I don't want to lose my ranking points or whatever. And it's like, oh, did you lose $5,000 because you lost that match? It's like, no. Did you lose $1 because you lost the match? No. Like, did you, go down on the rankings? Like, did you have to drive 2 hours home in the rain after losing the tournament? Like, no. It's like, well, it doesn't really matter, Like, this is just a training ground. Yeah. Net play is just training. So when you win or lose matches, see, this is the thing is, I tell people, don't worry about when you win matches on ranked, and they go, okay, cool. And so they win matches and they go, whatever, it's just training. And then they lose a match and they're like, no. And so it's like, the key is, don't worry about your wins and don't worry about your losses. I played an unranked session right before this. I'm practicing. I lost to a bunch of random people, It's okay. It's like, everyone has this perception that the person on the other end of unranked is like laughing to themselves and like, man, I'm sick actually. And you know what? And the reason that people think that is because when they win a game, they're like that. They're like, yeah, let's go. I destroyed this guy. And then they lose and they're like, bro, this guy's just like me. He's so happy. It's just sort of like a mentality to sort of work around when you're playing online. It's like, it's not good enough, but it's also not a big deal if you lose, And then, let's see. There was a second thing I was going to say to that. So, what was I going to say? So, okay, just remind me, just say basically the same thing you said again, and I'll try to figure out what the second point I was going to make was.
Basically that sometimes I play unranked, I don't really think about my options, I win anyway.
Yeah. Okay, sick. It was that you said as soon as you go on unranked, it all goes out the window, right? Or like okay, so this is just how it is. This is just how playing works in general, is that if something is not built into your subconscious, you will not be able to do it when you play the game. so like
Yes.
your level of understanding does not match. So basically your brain has like these sort of algorithms and like the sort of parts of your brain that load up whenever you start to play the game. And it doesn't really matter what you're thinking about before you go into the game, because as soon as the game starts you just load up all these things. And so the important thing to keep in mind is incremental improvement. So like you're not going to be able to go into a match and think about all this stuff and have it happen overnight, you know? What you do is you go into a match and you try really hard to do this, like, and you try to focus on it over everything else. You try to focus on it in a way that like everything else kind of falls by the wayside and your other stuff gets worse, but it doesn't matter because you're focusing on this. And then you play another match and you're like, I'm focusing on this, I'm getting 4-stocked, it doesn't matter, I'm focusing on this. And eventually your brain is like, fine, I get it, this is something we think about when we play the game, you know? And so it's a difficult process of like convincing yourself, convincing your subconscious mind that this is something we think about while we're playing. And so there's a combination of two things. One is you want to hyper focus on the thing you're working on, like really, really hard, because otherwise it will go away. You have to really, really focus on it, and you're going to do it really badly, but that's okay, because you're just trying to get it just far enough that your brain understands that this is now a subconscious part of like its play, and then that'll add on just that little bit, and then, you know, when you load up a game, you'll have a teensy bit of it subconscious along with all the rest of your subconscious, and then you keep forcing the consciousness more on it. You keep saying, okay, this is what I'm practicing, and eventually it builds up. It's a slow process, you know. It'll take, you know, weeks, probably days to weeks, to build up these new patterns. And so something that I've been saying in all my recent lessons is kind of interesting, is that like a lot of times when I give people things to do, and I'm like, look, I want you to go into the game and do this, this, and that, you know? A lot of times people go, okay, and they go into the game and they play 95% of their normal gameplay. They just do everything normal, and they pepper on the advice like ever so slightly. Like, I'm just gonna do my normal thing with just the slightest bit of like the tiniest bit of the advice he gave me. And then what happens is your brain sort of you lose focus after a few minutes, you kind of go into autopilot, and before you know it, you've been playing for an hour and a half and you haven't learned anything. And so the peppering it on thing is not what you want. You don't want to be like, so the way a lot of people interpret advice is like, I'm going to play the game, and then they get advice and they're like, sick, if I play the game and I do this advice, I'll just win. Then what they do is they play the game, they try to do that advice, they lose, and they just instantly default subconsciously back to what they were originally doing. And so you don't want to do either of those things. What you want to do is hardcore focus on this exact thing that you're doing and sort of just let your opponent hit you. It's fine, and focus on it long enough that it becomes a thing that you do regularly. That's the answer to, you know, it kind of leaving your head as soon as you play unranked, because that's just how it is. It's kind of like everybody practices, you know, don't go for Hail Mary forward smash, and then they get in tournament and it's game 5 and their brain is just like, do the forward smash, and it's very difficult to like maintain the stuff you practiced in like a high pressure environment. And so that's why you need to like practice correctly and like never, like, you know, you need to practice not allowing your brain to go into this autopilot mode that it wants to go into, and practice like learning these things, so then eventually when you're in tournament, you're Mango and you're playing Zane and Summit Grands, and you say, Mango, what were you thinking during that set? And he goes, oh, I was just thinking, you know, I gotta just let my hands do what they do, you know? And it's like, that's like literally what he's doing, is he's like, go subconscious, defeat Zane for me, you know? And then like all of these habits that he's built from good practice and like specifically making sure to play the way he wants all the time, those eventually can come out correctly in tournament, you know, because he's built them up over time.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Okay, so we have about 10 minutes left. I don't know if you want to send me another VOD or you want to ask some questions or whatever you want to do for the last 10 minutes is up to you.
Okay. Um, I don't know if it would be super helpful to send you another VOD because I think we would just kind of be going over the same things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's been really helpful to have like I've had like some of these thoughts, but to hear somebody tell me like this is what you have to do, that's really helpful. Um, I don't know.
That's good to hear.
I feel like I get really easily distracted from trying to play disciplined. Like I think
Mm-hmm.
I end up project it's like exactly what you said. Like I get happy when I beat somebody on unranked, like irrationally. Like it means nothing.
Oh yeah, no,
Uh,
it's just
I
human to
have
be
that,
happy
and then
about
when I
that.
lose, I project my own emotions onto my opponent, and I'm like, shit, I lost.
He's sitting there just so happy right now. Yeah.
He's texting all his friends that he just beat me on ranked.
Yeah. Exactly.
um, yeah, and sometimes I feel like I almost don't want my opponent to have a difficult time. Like not consciously, but like sometimes I'm like afraid of like making someone mad by being difficult to hit. You know what I mean? Like I know that sounds like stupid.
I do know what you mean, and I think a lot of times that a lot of times that happens when somebody not grows up, but basically at some point you probably had a friend who was kind of toxic, and whenever they lost they like got upset about it. Usually when I talk to people and they have these feelings, they're like, yeah, it's just my one friend, and I'd beat him, I'd four stock him, and then he would just go home just like, fine, I'm leaving. They leave, and then people get scarred from it. So in my experience,
Yeah.
that's usually what it is, and it's kind of weird, but the solution is within this game, within this competitive context, you want to be the most evil person you can possibly be. Whereas, like, outside of the game, you want to be a nice guy. But in the game, you need to be an actual devil. You need to be just the maestro of misery. It's just like, I am here, I know exactly how to play, that just makes you miserable, and it just makes you sad and feel really bad inside. And you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna play just like that, and then I'm gonna start styling, and I'm gonna make you feel worse, and I'm gonna make you give up all hope. And it's like, you're like, wow, that sounds pretty dark. And it's like, it is dark outside of the game. In the game, that's just how you play. That's just how it has to be. And like,
Right.
that's just, you have to sort of, and don't act like you're not evil. All humans are evil. We all have this inside of us. No matter how nice somebody thinks they are, everybody deep down inside has the human evil. We all have it. And so what you have to do, we usually in society, we spend our entire lives suppressing this evil part of us, not letting it out. We're like, wow, like I didn't really like this guy, and then like he like tripped and fell, and I kind of liked that. And you're like, that's bad. Like you don't feel good about that. And it's like, that's good. It's good to consider those feelings and be like, I shouldn't really feel that way. But in the game, you're like, yo, this guy missed his ledge dash? I bet now he's thinking like, oh, my tech skill's not very good. I'm going to start execution testing every ledge dash, You're like, yeah, just really just find the people's sensitive points and just beat them to death because of it, And it's difficult to transition between those two, but you kind of have to make like a kind of a counter personality for it. And like the thing is, everybody has these feelings inside them, but we've learned that those feelings are bad. But in the game, those feelings are fantastic, and they will help you out in so many situations. And so like, that is just sort of something. And I think a lot of people, like I said, a lot of people have had a friend in the past who have made them feel bad for beating them really badly or something like that. And it's a lot of times just like an emotional issue that you kind of have to get past and recognize that like there's a difference between a casual context where we're all here to have fun and a competitive context where I'm here to win the game. You know?
Mhm.
And like a lot of times that's just it's just like something that you have to have. And a lot of times when you're playing top players, even as a top player, like it's so frustrating when Zane gets like a lead and then he starts trying to do double edge cancel side B combos and you're going, yeah! Like, why are you doing this? Like, you just win the game and let me play you again. It's going, nah, I think I'll weak up air another 4 times, you know, just to kind of let you just stew in it. And you're like, ah, and it's like, then you come back and your invincibility runs out and you just early down air right on his head and he just shield grabs you and then he starts styling again and you just want to quit the game. And it's like, that right there, that's good play. that's how you play this game. So that's my advice on that, pretty much.
All right. That's awesome.
Okay, anything else? Any other questions or thoughts you have?
No, I think that was really good. That was really helpful.
Nice, that's good. I'm glad that
And
this was a productive lesson for you.
yeah, definitely. I'm glad we got it, worked out with the whole scheduling thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm glad that it seemed like the drilling and hammering and stuff stopped kind of like partway through the lesson. So I'm glad we didn't. It was so ridiculously loud earlier. I was really worried that we wouldn't be able to like have a decent lesson.
Yeah, I could hear it on your stream. That's been
Yeah,
going on
no,
since like
it
8 in
was
the morning.
no. You have no idea. This was like 10%. Like, I kid you not, it was 10%. It was literally vibrating my entire room. Like, I had like posters on the wall that fell because my room was vibrating. Like, I kid you not, it's been really, really bad, and it's been for the last 3 days, and today was by far the worst. It's like every 5 minutes, just like. So it's just, I don't know, it was awful. But anyway, I'm glad that it didn't disrupt the lesson too much, and it was good talking with you, Tucker. So
Yeah, man.
I
Thanks.
hope you have a good one, and I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, you too, man. See ya.
Yeah, good luck.